Hello, I'm Dorita Hanna, independent scholar, artist, designer and architect, and this is a short video describing my book. Event Space, Theatre Architecture and the Historical Avant-Garde. It's generously illustrated, especially with original photography by Mark Goodwin. In 1932, Friedrich Kiesler wrote, "We have no contemporary theatre, no agitator's theatre, no tribunal, no force which does not merely comment on life, but shapes it." Responding to comments such as this by revolutionary artists and architects, Event Space addresses not what architecture is or describes, but what it actively does, both on and off the prescribed stage. It radically re-evaluates theatre's revolutionary agenda, drawing on performance studies and architectural studies to establish a theory of performative architecture. It focuses on the symbolists, constructivists and surrealists who utilize theatrical and political events to challenge traditional theatre spaces in favour of more dynamic propositions. Maintaining that the built environment is an event itself, the book establishes spatiotemporal models that inspire new approaches to contemporary performance space. Dr. Andrew Filmer has referred to the book as a tour de force of spatial scholarship, deftly written and forward-facing, and a definitive and authoritative text. He writes, "We have needed a text like this that historicizes spatial performativity through an exploration of the relations and disjunctions between architecture and performance." The book has been endorsed by scholars such as theatre theorist Arnold Aronson, who wrote, "This is a crucial work for understanding the complexities of contemporary performance." And Professor of Architecture Jane Rendell sees it as a must-read for all those making the spatial politics of performance their future. By combining history and theory, Event Space defines performance space through spatial performativity. It does so by focusing on the period between 1872 and 1947, between Friedrich Nietzsche's claim that God is dead and Antonin Artaud's decision to have done with God's judgment. This marks a period that moved from the technological innovations of the Second Industrial Revolution to the technological slaughter during World War II. Central to Event Space is the notion of spacing as both design action and experience. It is defined by the hyphen between event and space. This punctuation has been described by the French philosopher Jacques Derrida as the becoming space of time and the becoming time of space. The built environment is therefore taken as inherently active with its own dynamic forces at play. Space, therefore, precedes action as action. The book is structured around a series of themed chapters. Through event as performance and space as architecture, the introduction formulates event space as a performance model for theatre architecture specifically and the built environment generally. It then looks to the 300-year-old Italianate auditorium as a glory machine to monarchs, art, and post-revolutionary audiences. Absolute space considers universal landscapes of the symbolists, while abstract space is informed by the constructivists and Brecht's alienation effect. Abject space draws upon surrealism and Antonin Artaud's theatre of cruelty. and the book concludes with the avant-garde desire to make architecture tremble. Following Michel Foucault, each chapter squeezes a specific event. The definitive event signalling the end of the Baroque scenographic stage is God's death. Wagner constructs his own glory machine through a groundbreaking ceremony. Edward Gordon Craig claims to give birth to a new theatre. Brecht's street corner accident defines a new mechanized urban spatiality. And the 2002 Moscow theatre siege heralds the new century through its violent theatre of cruelty. The book concludes with the fall of the architect and Edward Albee's play The Goat, in which architecture is made to tremble. Garnier's Opéra Paris marks the turning point and apotheosis of the Baroque Italianate auditorium, a form that Wagner radically reworked into the definitive modernist auditorium for the glory of his own music. However, the emerging avant-garde, especially Edward Gordon Craig and Adolphe Appia, wished for more abstracted spatialities found in their temporal monumentalities modulated by light and darkness. Appia's Hallerau Hall signals a more abstract performance landscape. However, the symbolist legacy appears to be found in the constructed void of the ubiquitous black box studio. Abstract space emerged from the constructivist celebration of industrial mechanization first found in Russia, and further developed through the Bauhaus in Germany. While Walter Gropius's total theatre was never achieved, the UK's Manchester Royal Exchange captures the impossible dream of a failed utopia. This can now be found in the prolific adaptive reuse of industrial buildings, such as Radial System, a disused sewage pumping station in Berlin. Which brings us to abject space, that can be defined as dis-easy, explosive, and decentered, as seen in Piranesi's Carceri etchings of 1780. Which preceded Schwitter's Cathedral of Erotic Misery as fractured spatial assemblages. This objection is wonderfully realized in Peter Brook's Bouffe du Nord in Paris, echoed in its emphatic material presence. Throughout the book, Mark Goodwin's photography approaches the venues as sites in waiting, already enacting their own slow performance. They echo this book's central premise that space precedes action as action. The book concludes with a further undermining of architecture's perceived stability, positing Babel as an other spatial model that incorporates the vertigo of the void, the impossibility of the machine, and the fleshiness of the organism. Such integration is found in Lino Borbardi's Teatro Oficina in Brazil, which forms a significant venue, encapsulating Artaud's claim that our petrified idea of theatre is connected with our petrified idea of a culture without shadows, where no matter which way it turns, our mind encounters only emptiness, though space is full.